The Great Hall of the United Earth Parliament was silent. 3,000 representatives from every nation on Earth and every human colony sat in their seats, watching the massive screen that covered the entire front wall. Commander Park Do-hyun stood at the central podium, his hands gripped tight behind his back. He had served humanity for 40 years. He had fought pirates in the Outer Rim. He had negotiated with alien species who looked at humans like insects. But he had never felt anger like this before. The message from the Galactic Council played for the 5th time. The Kelthari High Priest spoke in that slow, careful way that all Council species used when addressing humans. Like they were talking to children. Like humans were too stupid to understand normal speech. The Council has reviewed humanity's new propulsion technology, the alien said. His 4 eyes blinked one at a time. We find that such advancement is not appropriate for a species of your developmental stage. The technology will be transferred to Council custody. Human engineers will work under Voron's supervision. This is for the safety of all galactic citizens. The message ended. The screen went dark. Do-hyun looked across the hall. He saw anger on every face. He saw shame. He saw 300 years of frustration finally reaching its limit. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council with hope in their hearts. They had believed in cooperation. They had believed in friendship between species. They had been fools. The Council had 12 founding species. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. When humans first made contact, the Council had welcomed them with open arms. But that welcome came with chains. Humans could only colonize approved worlds. Human ships could only travel approved routes. Human scientists needed Council permission to research anything the Council considered sensitive. And everything was sensitive. For 3 centuries, humanity had followed the rules. They had been patient. They had been respectful. They had swallowed their pride again and again because they believed things would get better. The older species would learn to trust them. The restrictions would ease. Humanity would earn its place among the stars. They had been wrong. Ambassador Yoon Hana walked to the podium. She was 60 years old, with silver hair that she wore loose around her shoulders. She had spent her entire life in diplomatic service. She had smiled at aliens who called humans primitive. She had nodded politely when Council representatives explained why humans could not be trusted. She had done everything right, played every game, followed every rule. And now she was done. I have prepared a response to the Galactic Council, she said. Her voice was calm and steady. With the Parliament's permission, I will transmit it now. The vote was unanimous. 3,000 hands raised in agreement. Not a single person hesitated. Hana activated the transmission. Her image would appear on every Council world, in every Council chamber, before every Council species. She stood straight and spoke clearly. For 300 years, humanity has been a member of the Galactic Council. We have followed your laws. We have respected your traditions. We have contributed our labor, our creativity, and our loyalty to the galactic community. In return, we have been treated as lesser beings. Our achievements have been stolen. Our ambitions have been crushed. Our dignity has been ignored. She paused. Across the galaxy, 12 species watched in confusion. No one spoke to the Council like this. The Vethrani Accord demands that we surrender technology developed entirely by human minds, using human resources on human worlds. This technology belongs to humanity. It is not yours to take. It never was. The Kelthari High Priest tried to interrupt the transmission. His technicians could not understand why their systems were not responding. Human engineers have been preparing for this moment for a very long time. The United Earth Federation hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council, Hana continued. This decision is final. It is not open to negotiation. All Council vessels currently in human space have 72 hours to leave. After that time, they will be removed by force. She looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were cold. You have treated humanity like children for 300 years. You have told us we were too young, too aggressive, too dangerous to be trusted. Perhaps you were right. Perhaps we are dangerous, but not in the way you feared. We are dangerous because we learn. We adapt. We grow. And we do not forget. The transmission ended. In the Great Hall of the United Earth Parliament, no one cheered. This was not a moment for celebration. It was a moment of transformation. Humanity had just declared its independence from the most powerful organization in galactic history. The road ahead would be difficult, perhaps impossible. Commander Dawn stepped forward to address the Parliament. His voice was quiet but firm. We have 72 hours before the Council responds. I recommend we use that time wisely. All military forces are now at full alert. All civilian vessels should return to human space immediately. And someone needs to tell our people what just happened. He looked at Hannah. She nodded slowly. They wanted to take our future, she said. So we are taking it back. Whatever comes next, we face it together. As humans, as equals, as free people. Across human space, billions of people watched the transmission. They saw their ambassadors stand before the galaxy and refuse to bend. They saw their leaders choose dignity over safety, pride over peace. And they understood that nothing would ever be the same. The Galactic Council had ruled for 10,000 years. They had seen species rise and fall. They had crushed rebellions and absorbed empires. They believed they understood power. They did not understand humanity. Not yet. 3 years of silence. 3 years of darkness. 3 years of the galaxy wondering what humanity was doing behind their closed borders. The Galactic Council had expected many things. They expected humanity to suffer. They expected human colonies to starve without Council trade routes. They expected human leaders to beg for readmission within months. They expected weakness, desperation, and surrender. They received nothing. Admiral Kan Suho stood on the bridge of the battleship Sovereignty, looking at a holographic map of human space. Blue lights marked human worlds. Green lights marked new allies. Red lights marked Council observation posts that had tried to spy on human territory. Those red lights kept disappearing. Council ships would approach the border, sensors active, weapons ready. Then they would simply stop transmitting. Days later, those same ships would appear in Council space, crews unharmed but confused. Their navigation logs were erased. Their sensor data was gone. They remembered nothing useful. It was driving the Council insane. "Report from Station 7, said Lieutenant Chomina, his communications officer. She was young, only 25. But she had been born on a colony world. She had grown up hearing stories about Council arrogance. She had no love for the species that had treated her people like animals. "Go ahead," Suho said. The Morath sent another observation drone. "We captured it intact. Engineering wants to know if they should study it or send it back empty." Suho smiled. The Morath were the oldest species in the Council. They had existed before most stars were born. They watched everything and said very little. Their drones were the most advanced technology the Council possessed. Human engineers had taken their first captured Morath drone apart in 6 hours. They had improved its design in 12. Now they used Morath technology as practice exercises for junior technicians. "Send it back," Suho said. "Let them wonder why we're not afraid of their toys." Across human space, the transformation continued. The faster-than-light engine that the Council had tried to steal was now obsolete. Human scientists had developed 3 new versions, each faster and more efficient than the last. Shipyards built vessels in hidden locations the Council sensors could not detect. Factories produced weapons that Council species had never imagined. But the greatest change was not technological. It was social. Dr. Shin Yoonji had predicted everything. She was humanity's foremost expert on alien cultures, a woman who had spent 50 years studying how different species thought and behaved. When the break with the Council happened, she had submitted a classified report to the Parliament. That report had changed everything. The Council is not strong, she had written. It is brittle. The 12 founding species do not trust each other. They never have. They stay united because they fear what would happen if they broke apart. Remove that fear, and they will destroy themselves. She had been right. Without human diplomats serving as neutral mediators, old conflicts resurfaced. The Kelthari and the Varan had hated each other for millennia. Humans had always stood between them, calming tensions, finding compromises. Now there was no buffer. Trade disputes became economic warfare. Border disagreements became military confrontations. Twice in the first year, the Council had nearly collapsed into civil war. And that was just the beginning. The Council economy depended on human manufacturing. Humanity had always been willing to do the boring work, the difficult work, the work that other species considered beneath them. Human factories produced goods for half the galaxy. Human engineers maintained systems that alien species did not understand. Human workers filled jobs that no one else wanted. Now all of that was gone. Prices increased. Supply chains broke. Wealthy Council worlds discovered that their comfortable lives had been built on human labor. They did not handle the discovery well. Meanwhile, humanity welcomed the galaxy's outcasts. The Council had always been selective about membership. Species that were too aggressive were rejected. Species that were too independent were rejected. Species that asked too many questions were rejected. These rejected species had spent centuries on the margins of galactic society, ignored and forgotten. Humanity remembered them. Ships arrived at the human border carrying refugees, exiles, and dreamers. They came from worlds the Council had abandoned. They came from species the Council had dismissed as primitive. They came because they had heard rumors of a place where no one would judge them, where no one would limit their potential, where no one would tell them they were not good enough. Admiral Suho met each ship personally. He shook hands with beings who had never been treated with respect by anyone. He welcomed them to human space, not as subordinates, but as partners. "We are building something new," he told them. "Not an empire, not a council, something better. And we need your help to do it." The rejected species brought knowledge the Council had ignored. They brought perspectives humanity had never considered. They brought skills and talents that had been wasted for centuries. And they brought loyalty that the Council could never buy. 3 years of silence. 3 years of building. 3 years of preparation. The Galactic Council had ruled for 10,000 years. They believed they were eternal. They believed nothing could challenge their power. They believed humanity was just another troublesome species that would eventually submit. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In her office on Earth, Dr. Shin Yoonji finished her latest report. The title was simple: "The Council will fall within 10 years." She sent it to the Parliament with a single note attached: "I was wrong. It will happen faster." The Morith ship was ancient. Its hull was covered in symbols that predated most civilizations. Its engines made no sound. Its weapons were hidden so well that human sensors could not find them. It drifted toward the human border slowly, peacefully, broadcasting a single message on all frequencies. "We wish to talk." Captain Beit Jesu received a message aboard her patrol vessel, the Swift Current. She was 32 years old, the daughter of miners from a distant colony world. She had joined the Navy because she wanted to see the stars. She had never expected to be the first human to speak with a Morith in 3 years. She contacted Admiral Suho immediately. His response was quick. Meet them. Listen to what they have to say. But be careful. The Morith are older than anyone. They have seen empires rise and fall. They do not do anything without reason. Jizu guided her ship alongside the Morith vessel. A docking tube extended between them. She walked through it alone, as protocol demanded. The Morith only spoke to individuals. They found group conversations confusing. The inside of the Morith ship was beautiful. Crystal walls reflected light in patterns that seemed almost alive. The air smelled like flowers from a world that no longer existed. And waiting for her in the central chamber was a Morith elder. It was tall, at least 3 meters, with a body that seemed to flow rather than move. Its compound eyes contained thousands of tiny lenses, each one focused on something different. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. You are young, it said. Your species is young. Your civilization is young. Your anger is young. Jisu stood her ground. She had been trained for this. She would not show fear. We are young, she agreed. But we learn quickly. The Morith made a sound that might have been laughter. It was hard to tell. Yes, you do. That is why I am here. It moved toward a window. Outside, stars burned in the darkness. Some of those stars had been born after the Morith achieved space travel. Some of them would die before the Morith did. I have watched the Council for 9,000 years, the Elder said. I watched it form. I watched it grow. I watched it become what it is today. Do you know what I have learned? Jisu waited. The Council is afraid, the Morith continued. It has always been afraid. It fears change. It fears growth. It fears anything it cannot control. That fear has shaped every decision, every law, every restriction. The Council does not rule the galaxy. Fear rules the Council. And humanity? Jisu asked. The Morith turned to face her. Its thousands of eyes studied her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. Humanity is not afraid. That is what makes you dangerous. That is what makes you interesting. That is why the Council tried to chain you. And that is why they failed. The Elder moved closer. Jisu forced herself not to step back. I came here to see what you have built. I have heard rumors, stories, impossible things. I needed to know if they were true. What kind of stories? Jisu asked. Stories of a place where species are not ranked, where no one is called primitive or advanced, where beings work together not because they are forced to, but because they choose to. Is this true? Jisu thought of the station she had visited last month. She had seen humans working alongside Vreshi engineers. She had seen Tirani scientists sharing meals with Bandori traders. She had seen children from a dozen species playing together, speaking a language they had invented themselves. It is true, she said. We call it the Open Compact. The Morith was silent for a long time. When it spoke again, its voice was softer. I have lived for 12,000 years. I have seen wonders beyond counting. But I have never seen anything like what you describe. May I see it for myself? 1 week later, the Morith Confederation announced its withdrawal from the Galactic Council. The Elder who had met with Jisu gave a speech that was broadcast across the galaxy. For 9,000 years, we have watched. We have observed. We have done nothing. That was our mistake. The Council has become a prison, not a community. Humanity has shown us a different way. We choose to follow that way. We choose to grow instead of stagnate. We choose hope instead of fear. The Council erupted in chaos. The Morith were the oldest, the wisest, the most respected species in the galaxy. If they had abandoned the Council, what did that mean for everyone else? The answer came quickly. The Vreshi Unity withdrew 3 days later. They were scientists, explorers, dreamers. The Council had forced them to focus only on approved research. Humanity offered them freedom. The Terani Free States withdrew the following week. They were traders, merchants, travelers. The Council had restricted their routes, taxed their profits, limited their growth. Humanity offered them opportunity. The Bandori Collective withdrew a month after that. They were artists, musicians, storytellers. The Council had censored their work, controlled their expression, silenced their voices. Humanity offered them an audience. One by one, the dominoes fell. The Galactic Council had started with 12 founding species. Within a year, only 3 remained. The Kelthari, fanatics who believed their religion gave them the right to rule. The Voron, merchants who had grown wealthy from Council corruption. And the Nethrak, warriors who feared that without the Council, they would have no one to fight. High Arbiter Quellis of the Kelthari gave a desperate speech, calling humanity a virus, a disease, a corruption that was destroying galactic civilization. He demanded that the remaining Council species unite for war. But it was too late. The galaxy had seen what humanity offered. Freedom, equality, hope. These were things the Council had never provided. These were things the Council had actively suppressed. Captain Beek Jisu watched the speech from her quarters aboard the Swift Current. She thought about the Morith Elder, about its thousands of eyes, about the choice it had made after 12,000 years of watching. Change was coming. The old order was dying, and humanity had lit the fire. The Council fleet gathered at the edge of human space. 400 warships from 3 species, armed with the most destructive weapons the galaxy had ever seen. The Kelthari brought their holy destroyers, vessels blessed by priests who promised divine victory. The Voron brought their mercenary carriers, packed with fighters piloted by soldiers who fought for money rather than belief. The Nethrak brought their dreadnoughts, massive ships built for one purpose only: total annihilation. It was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. High Arbiter Quellis stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the fleet form into attack position. He believed this would be humanity's end. He believed the natural order would be restored. He believed his gods had chosen him for this moment. He was wrong about everything. Admiral Kang Suho received reports of the fleet's approach from a dozen sources. Spy satellites, allied observers, even a few Council officers who had lost faith in their leaders. He knew exactly how many ships were coming. He knew their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses. He knew everything. He brought 47 ships to meet them. His officers questioned the decision. 47 against 400 seemed like suicide. But Suho had learned something during the silent years. He had learned that the Council understood only one kind of power: overwhelming force. They could not imagine any other way to fight. That was their weakness. General O Taiwu commanded the ground forces that would never be needed. Intelligence Director Wan Mei had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. They had developed weapons the Council could not understand, tactics the Council could not predict, strategies the Council could not counter. The Battle of the Threshold began at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. The Council fleet advanced in traditional formation, heavy ships in front, support vessels behind. They expected humanity to do the same. They expected a clash of strength against strength, numbers against numbers. They expected a war they understood. Instead, human ships simply disappeared. One moment they were visible on Council sensors. The next moment they were gone. The Kelthari commanders screamed orders at their technicians. The Voron mercenaries checked their equipment, certain something was broken. The Nethrek warriors gripped their weapons and waited for an enemy they could not see. Then the human ships reappeared. Not in front of the Council fleet. Behind it, above it, below it, around it, everywhere at once. They did not fire weapons that killed. They fired weapons that disabled. Engines went dark. Weapons systems shut down. Navigation computers crashed. Communication arrays exploded in showers of harmless sparks. One by one, Council ships became helpless, drifting in the void with nothing but life support still functioning. The Nethrek dreadnought Thunder of Gods tried to ram a human cruiser. The cruiser slipped sideways through a dimension that should not have existed, appeared behind the dreadnought, and disabled its engines with a single precise shot. The mighty warship spun slowly in the darkness, its crew alive but humiliated. High Arbiter Quellis watched his holy fleet become a collection of floating debris. He ordered his priests to pray louder. He demanded that his gods intervene. His gods did not answer. 6 hours after it began, the battle was over. 400 Council warships drifted in the void, disabled but intact. Not a single crew member was dead. Not a single life support system was damaged. Not a single escape pod was necessary. Admiral Suho broadcast a message to the defeated fleet. His voice was calm, almost gentle. We could have killed you. Every ship. Every crew member. Every soldier. We had the power to turn your fleet into a graveyard. We chose not to. Remember this moment. Remember what we could have done. Remember what we did instead. He paused, letting the words sink in. The Galactic Council is over. Not because we destroyed it, because it destroyed itself. You built an empire on fear, and when people stopped being afraid, your empire crumbled. That is not our fault. That is yours. In her command center on Earth, Intelligence Director Wang Mai watched the broadcast with quiet satisfaction. She had spent years preparing for this war. She had developed weapons that could have ended civilizations. She had designed strategies that could have killed billions. And she had convinced the Parliament to use none of them. We win by being better, she had argued. Not by being stronger. If we become what they feared, we prove them right. If we show mercy, we prove them wrong. The galaxy is watching. Let them see who we really are. The galaxy did see. They saw a human fleet that could have committed genocide, choose to disable rather than destroy. They saw human soldiers who could have killed, choose to spare. They saw a species that the Council had called primitive, aggressive, and dangerous, prove that it was none of those things. Messages flooded into human space from across the galaxy. Species that had been too afraid to leave the Council now requested membership in the Open Compact. Worlds that had believed Council propaganda now questioned everything they had been told. Individuals who had hated humanity now wondered if they had been wrong. High Arbiter Quellis was rescued from his disabled flagship by a human medical ship. The doctors treated his injuries with care and professionalism. They asked if he was comfortable. They offered him food and water. They treated him with dignity he had never shown to them. He did not understand. He could not understand. His entire worldview had been built on the assumption that younger species were violent and cruel. Humanity had just proven him wrong in the most devastating way possible. The war was over. The Council had lost. And not a single person had died. That was humanity's greatest victory. The city of Bizin had been underwater for 200 years. Rising oceans had swallowed its streets, drowned its buildings, erased its history. Then human engineers had decided to bring it back. They built walls against the sea. They pumped out the water. They restored the ancient structures and added new ones. They turned a symbol of destruction into a symbol of hope. That was why President No Yuna chose it for the signing of the Compact Charter. Representatives from 37 species filled the great hall that had once been a train station. Some were tall, some were small. Some breathed oxygen, some breathed methane. Some had 2 eyes, some had hundreds. They came from worlds scattered across the galaxy, worlds that had never spoken to each other before humanity brought them together. The Morath Elder who had first visited human space sat in the front row. Beside it sat the Vreshi Ambassador, a being made of living crystal. Behind them sat Tirani traders, Bandori artists, and dozens of species whose names humanity was still learning to pronounce. Former council members sat beside species they had once dismissed as primitive. Ancient beings listened to civilizations that had achieved space travel only decades ago. President No stood at the podium. She was 63 years old, the daughter of farmers from a small village that no longer existed. She had spent her life in public service, working her way up from local government to planetary administration to the highest office humanity had ever created. She had never wanted this job. But when the vote came, she had accepted the responsibility. She looked at the gathered representatives and felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. 10,000 years ago, the Galactic Council was formed, she began. Its founders believed they were creating something beautiful. A union of species. A community of civilizations. A family of worlds. But somewhere along the way, they lost their vision. The union became a hierarchy. The community became a cage. The family became a prison. She paused, letting her words echo through the great hall. The council believed that the galaxy needed order. They believed that some species were meant to lead, and others were meant to follow. They believed that progress had to be controlled, that ambition had to be limited, that the young had to obey the old. They were wrong. The Morath Elder made a sound of agreement. Several other representatives nodded or made gestures that meant the same thing in their cultures. Order without freedom is just another word for tyranny, No continued. Control without consent is just another word for slavery. And age does not equal wisdom. Sometimes it just means you have had more time to make mistakes. She looked at the humans in the audience. Admiral Kang Suho, hero of the Threshold. Dr. Shin Yunji, who had predicted everything. Captain Beek Jisoo, who had welcomed the Morath to human space. Intelligence Director Wang Mai-Rei, who had won a war without killing anyone. Ambassador Yoon Hana, who had started it all with a single transmission. Humanity did not defeat the council, No said. We simply showed the galaxy that another way was possible. We showed them that species could work together as equals. We showed them that power did not have to mean domination. We showed them that being young did not mean being inferior. She held up the document that would change galactic history forever. The Compact Charter. 5 pages of simple principles written in every language the galaxy used. This charter does not create a government. It creates a promise. A promise that no species will be ranked above another. A promise that no world will be excluded because of its age or size or power. A promise that everyone who signs this document will treat every other signatory with dignity, respect, and equality. She looked at the gathered representatives one final time. The galaxy is not a ladder with some species at the top and others at the bottom. The galaxy is a garden. Every species is a different flower. Every civilization brings something unique. Together, we create something more beautiful than any of us could create alone. The signing began. The Morath Elder signed first, pressing its appendage against the document and leaving a mark that glowed with internal light. The Vreshi Ambassador signed second, its crystal body chiming like music. One by one, representatives from 37 species added their marks to the charter. Some used hands. Some used tentacles. Some used parts of their bodies that humans did not have words for. It did not matter. What mattered was the meaning behind the action. The signing took 3 days, not because of bureaucracy or ceremony, but because every citizen who wanted to participate was allowed to add their voice. Millions of messages arrived from across the galaxy, ordinary people expressing their support for the new order. The charter grew from 5 pages to 50, then 500, as names and symbols and messages of hope were added. When it was finally complete, President No addressed the galaxy one last time. The Galactic Council ruled through fear. The Open Compact will succeed through trust. The Council demanded obedience. We offer partnership. The Council built walls. We build bridges. And today, those bridges connect every world that wants to be connected. 50 years later, Dr. Shin Yoonji gave her final lecture at the University of Alpha Centauri. She was very old now, her hair white, her movements slow. But her mind was still sharp, her eyes still bright. Students from 20 species filled the auditorium. Humans sat beside Morath, Reshi beside Tarani, species that had once been enemies now learning together as friends. They ask me sometimes what made humanity different, Yoonji said. Why we succeeded where the Council failed. I will tell you the secret. She smiled, the same smile she had worn when she first predicted the Council's fall, decades ago in a classified report that had changed everything. We never wanted to rule the galaxy. We just wanted to be free. Free to build. Free to dream. Free to reach for the stars without someone telling us we could not. And when they tried to stop us, we found something wonderful. The galaxy was full of species who wanted the same thing. All they needed was someone to go first. She looked at her students, human and alien alike, united by curiosity and hope. So we went first, and the galaxy followed. Outside the university windows, ships from 100 worlds crossed the sky. They carried traders and tourists, scientists and artists, diplomats and dreamers. They flew without fear, without restriction, without anyone telling them where they could or could not go. This was humanity's legacy. Not conquest, not empire, not domination, but something far more powerful, freedom, and the galaxy would never be the same.